this section, we will continue to look at how to multiply polynomials. Let's look at how to multiply binomials. In order to do this, you must multiply each term of one binomial by each term of the other binomial. So, in this example, we need to multiply each term of this first binomial by each term of the second binomial. So, to begin, we'll look at the first term of the first binomial, 4x, and we must multiply it by each term in the second binomial, which is shown here. And then, once we have the first term multiplied, then we want to look at the second term. So here we have a -2, and so we want to multiply that by each term in the second binomial, which is shown here. So, once you have this portion set up, then we can go ahead and distribute those terms into the second binomial. And so if we distribute the 4x times 3x, we end up with 12x squared. And then 4x times 6 gives us 24x. And then moving over into the second one, we have a -2 times 3x, which gives us this -6x. And then the -2 times 6 gives us a -12. Now, you'll notice that we have two terms that have an x to the first power, so they can be considered like terms. And if we remember simplifying polynomials, any terms that are like terms must be combined in order to get the polynomial to its simplest form. And in order to combine these, we look at the coefficients on those terms of a 24 and a -6 and add them together. So we're left with an positive 18. So our final answer gives us 12x squared plus 18x minus 12. There is another method you can utilize when multiplying binomials called the FOIL method, and this will allow you to ensure that you have multiplied each term together that needs to get multiplied together. And FOIL actually stands for the first terms, the outer terms, the inner terms, and the last terms. So FOIL is an acronym telling you which terms you need to still multiply together in order to ensure you have distributed each binomial by each term of the second binomial. So, if we take a look at this example, we want to multiply the first terms together, the outer terms together, the inner terms together, and the last terms together. So what it means by the first terms is the first terms in each binomial. So we have a 3x times a 2x. As you see over here is the f of FOIL, or the first terms. Then we want to add on the outer terms. And when we say outer terms, notice how the outer terms appear to be on the outside of the entire expression, or outer. So we have a 3x times a 7. Then our next term is going to be the inner term, or what appears to be the innermost two terms of the entire expression. So we have a 4 times a 2x. And lastly, we take the last terms. So literally, the last term in each of the binomials, and in this case, it's a 4 times 7. Then, you go through and multiply each of those terms that you just came up with. So for the first terms of 3x times 2x, we have a 6x squared. Then moving on to the outer terms, or the O, we get 3x times 7, which gives us 21x. The inner term, 4 times 2x, will give us an 8x. And the last term, or L, is 4 times 7, which gives us 28. Now, notice that we have like terms that need to be combined because we have an x to the first power and an x to the first power. So to combine those like terms, we look at the coefficients, 21 and 8, and we need to add those together in order to get 29x. And so the most simplified version of this expression would be 6x squared plus 29x plus 28. Finally, let's look at multiplying polynomials. When multiplying polynomials, you must multiply each term of one polynomial by each term of the other polynomial, and then you combine the like terms in order to create the simplest form of the polynomial. So here we see that we have 8x that is being distributed into each term of the second polynomial, and then the other term in that first polynomial being distributed into each term of the second polynomial. So down below, we show that first we start by multiplying that 8x, that first term, by each term to get 8x times 4x squared, 8x times 3x, 8x times 5, and then we move on to the second term in the first polynomial, so 2 times 4x squared, 2 times 3x, and 2 times 5. Now we need to complete those multiplications as you see here. So 8x times 4x squared gives us a 32x cubed, and so on down the row. Now we've completed the multiplication, so all we have left is combining the like terms. So we start by looking to see if we have any other x to the thirds, and since we don't, that term stays the same. Then notice that we have two terms that have x squared, so those like terms need to be combined by adding the coefficients. So 24 plus 8 gives us a 32x squared. Then we also have like terms of x to the first power, and again we need to combine them by adding the coefficients of 40 plus 6 gives us a 46x. And finally we are left with our coefficient 10. And our final answer is 32x to the third plus 32x squared plus 46x plus 10.